everybody for coming tonight. A little bit about us. We are Chris.
I'm Jango.
I'm Gabe.
Marin.
And before we decided to choose our project, we actually had a couple requirements that wanted us to be fulfilled in it. So we wanted one that was kind of meaningful, that would be helpful towards people. And we also wanted a project that was also challenging, because that's something that we wanted to implement after having 3 months of hard coding and hard class. So an introduction, a little bit about what Cohort is, as they already mentioned. They are a nonprofit organization that relies on funding from grants and everything like that. They are a nonprofit organization for sexual abuse, assault, for gang violence, and human trafficking. So they have employees and advocates that go out there and they talk to people out in the community. If there's an emergency, they'll go to the emergency room. They'll talk to you in person at your house. They'll also have a safe space for you to come and visit as well. And there's also a hotline that you can always reach as well. So you can always find somebody that is able to help you with their services. And as of right now, there's about 8 full-time staff, 3 part-time staff, and over 50 volunteers right now. And a few of the problems that we've ran into, Jango, can take this over.
Yeah, I think in order to understand some of the problems and issues that HopeWorks is facing, I think it's important to take a moment and step into the shoes of some of the staff at HopeWorks. I just imagine for a moment that you're a volunteer answering a hotline call, and it's a high-stress situation where an employee has to fill out this form, and the person on the line has had some kind of sexual abuse, and they're trying to quickly fill out this form as efficiently as they can, while also being empathetic to the person on the phone, as well as and this has a back as well, and there's an ongoing form also, and they're also just trying to get this person to safety, so they're kind of dealing with a lot. And then after these people fill out these forms, there's more forms than I'd like to admit get filled out. They get put on one database on one computer, and that's all done by that small staff. And then on top of that, they're almost solely funded by grants. And in order to get these grants, they have to have statistics. So they have to go through manually in their database and find all these statistics. And I think that helps paint a picture of some of the issues that they were dealing with.
Yeah, so in order to address some of these problems and try and build an app that addresses them, we wanted to create a quick and easy to use form that's online. And we wanted it to be hooked up to an online database. So there's no in between re-entering of data. It just goes straight to an online database. We also wanted to make sure that that database is really secure, so that only people who should be seeing survivor information can see it. And in addition to that, we wanted to implement different levels of authentication. So something that Aaron worked on was creating an admin tier, employee tier, and a volunteer tier. So they all have different permissions and have different abilities for what they can do on the site. Yeah.
So this shows pretty basic, pretty easy to follow structure of our app, right? So the user opens up the app, that brings you to a basic login page. The login page will send the username and password to an Express server, which will check that against a MongoDB database. And then, depending on their level of permission, it'll redirect you to the home, and they'll either be able to see the form, to create a form, all the forms that were filled out, or the data that we were talking about earlier. And this is just an overview of some of the tech that we used. It's M for MongoDB, E for Express, R for React, and N for Node.js, which conveniently spells out the word MERN. All right, demo time.
Demo time. The moment we've all been waiting for.
All right, so here's the login page that we were talking about. right now, as you can see, you can input an email and a password. I had a dummy user that I created called user with a very intricate password that I won't divulge to anyone. Here we go.
And this is the homepage once you log in. This is the main hub that, and what you're seeing here is the administrator level of, just they have access to all these different things, view data, view submitted forms, and let's create a new form. Show you how it works. This is a form that we worked very hard on, and I wanted to try to implement some of the, we talked to them a lot about how they had filled out all their forms by hand, and we wanted to just add a few features that would make it similar and just some of the advantages to running by hand. One of them was that we just put in a simple nav bar that can jump as, as this person on, as I said, who's, getting this call on the hotline, just needs to be able to jump, put in different information. They can there, and also one of the advantages they talked about was writing in the margin, so we put in a notes box that follows you as you scroll through. And to go through some of the more responsive features, I'll hand it off to Gabe.
Yeah, so we not only wanted to make it, just as good as writing on paper, we also wanted to make it better. So the way that we tried to do that was we combined those two different forms into one, and effectively what we did was the form adapts to previous inputs that you put in. So for example, if you uncheck this checkbox at the top, it will hide the demographic section, which is of course no longer there, because we already have that information in the database. So there's no need to record it again. So basically, as you check these different boxes, there are a bunch of customized functions that will do different things based off of your inputs. So another example of this is we wanted to make the form very flexible to any sort of edge case situation that could have occurred. Because in a situation where you normally could just write stuff in margins, sure you could write it in the notes, but we thought it would be more comprehensive if we had this feature where you can actually modify the number of incidents that occurred. So Aaron, puts in 2, 3 incidents, it renders more incidents according to the number that you input. So it's very flexible in that way. And let's just go ahead and submit this form, and we'll see it in the view form page. So just remember this name, John. He will show up in the view form area. Okay. There we go. Form is submitted, so we'll view it. And there he is at the top. I promise we didn't do this ahead of time. This just happened. And these are all not real people, by the way. This is just dummy data that we created. But here we can see all the information that we just input. And as you can see, it doesn't render things that you didn't input, with the exception of all these unknown genders. But in general, it only records things that you input. So it ignores all the things that you didn't put in, which helps to reduce clutter. Let's view a more filled out form. So here's one that's more filled out. And as you can see, if we scroll down a little bit, there are some fields that are pretty complex. So for example, when we have multiple incidents, we needed to be able to display those incidents in a way that made sense and really it makes it readable. So originally when we had it print out, it was just in a long string, but we needed to combine them into just little blocks, which was a bit of a challenge. But at this point, we have it at a point where if we were to add a new field into our form, this page would be able to print out that new field. It's very flexible, and so yeah, we can basically modify the form as needed, which is a great feature. Now let's just go back and delete that form we created. And there's a little confirmation prompt to make sure you don't delete anything accidentally. There it is, the view form page.
All right.
That's about it.
So now with this data page, with HopeWorks being so reliant on the grants and everything like that, they needed statistical information on certain demographics, and they were actually going through each form and each of them, just writing it down and calculating themselves, which took way too much time, was messy, and we wanted to simplify that. That was one of their main features that they wanted. So what I did, with the help of Gabe, is we had forms up here, so we know that there's 8 total forms submitted already that are being held in the database. Now, if we go here and show the range of an age, 25 to 59, you'll see that there's actually 4 profiles of the 8 that are in that age range. So you could do that with a few others and show them. And it'll show up on there so that there's 3 survivors. So we found that this was really a big feature that we needed to give them because they are so reliant on it, and to get their services to keep going, they need to get money because they're not profit. So this was really big and one of my favorite things to do about this project.
Alright, so back into the slides now. And we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the roles that each of us had. So I started off by creating just a very basic initial login page. After that, I moved into working on the authentication. None of us really had much or any experience working with authenticating logins, but luckily we have some great instructors here at VCA to learn along with us and help us along the way. I also made contributions to the middleware, and that handled the calling off to the HopeWorks users collection in our database on MongoDB. And as Gabe touched on earlier, I created the 3 different authentication tiers of admin, employee, and volunteer. I also spent a lot of time working on our server.js file, which handled the actual checking of the user's email and password and their authentication level against the database before logging them in. And also I did a lot of what I have been referring to as grunt work, which was dealing with our merge conflicts that were frequently popping up as we were all frantically pushing our code up to GitHub during the final legs of the project. And I just want to say, I think my favorite part of the project was just the experience of collaborating with a team and a client. I really lucked out, and we had a great group. I think we all really complemented each other really well, and we all brought different personalities to the table, and I found that was really important.
All right, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, my name's Django, and what I contributed, as I said before, me and Gabe, alongside with Gabe, we built the initial form, survivor information form from scratch. And I also helped, as I said, with the nav bar and putting in the notes field. That was a large amount of work building out that form. I also was responsible for styling out the website, uniting it in a custom theme, doing the CSS, and then one other feature that we're adding on is the authentication. OAuth, which stands for what's the O? Open authentication. Thank you. I remember. I'm not nervous at all. But so this was used. We used a piece of software, which was Passport.js, which is an authentication software. And so I'm sure you've seen a similar thing. It turns out that each one of the HopeWorks staff members, they all have a Google account, so they can, from our website, just click sign in with Google. They can simply consent their basic personal information, and this is the Google level security, which is a nice feature to have. And then they give their email address, it's sent back, rerouted back to the website, where we check in a user database to see if there's a match between between that email address and in the database. And if there is a match, then they get sent back to our website at the specific authentication level, administrator, volunteer, or employee.
Yeah, so definitely a large amount of my time was spent with Django building that form. As you can imagine, it took a long time to build in every single field from the paper form into a digital format, and trying to, some things on paper just don't work digitally and vice versa. So trying to think of just how to put it in the digital format was a bit of a challenge. Definitely spent a while adding in functions for React so that the form would be more responsive, as I said. My favorite part of the project was the view form page, trying to build really comprehensive functions that would take in the value input in the form and figure out how to display it on the screen. And I also helped Chris out a little bit with doing a little bit of work with some functions in the data page as well.
Yeah, so I built the server using Express so that everything could communicate with each other. It's very important. And I also built a structural database so that everything is safe and secure, because it's very sensitive information. You don't want that going out there anywhere, you know. And I created that data page with Gabe. You know, a lot of bugs, a lot of fixing it. You know, that was fun. And like I was saying earlier, I think that was actually one of my favorite parts of the project, because it's going to keep them going and be able to get those grants a lot easier and be able to find statistics for them to acquire those grants. So that's one of my favorites, and that is.
All right, in conclusion, some of the things we did to make it easier for the people, the hardworking people at HopeWorks. Right at the top here, data doesn't have to be re-entered. They simply get to fill out the form, and it's made very easy for them. And just by the simple click of a button, they submit a form into the database.
Yeah, we think it's also really convenient to have everything in one place. Everything's right in the app. So, you know, after you submit a form, you just click another button and you can view that form.
And now instead of manually going through every form and looking at it and writing it down, now they can get the quick information that they need just automatically on the data page.
Yeah, and as we said, it was really important to us that we made a more complete, flexible form to make the lives of the volunteers and the employees easier. Yeah, just to finish up, I really want to thank HopeWorks. They were just amazing through this whole process. They always make time to meet with us despite how busy they are. And most of all, they put a lot of faith in us to tackle such a huge project. So again, I really want to sincerely thank them. I don't think they were able to make it tonight, but I also want to thank UCA and my awesome teammates, Chris, Jango, Gabe, and yeah, thank you all for coming out, taking the time out of your busy lives to come here and listen to us talk about our project.